Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. Very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there? Yes, welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCEU Daily. It is Tuesday. I can't remember my fucking days. Things are nuts in my life right now. But anyway, welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCEU Daily, and there's only really one thing to talk about, isn't there? And that's Jason Momoa claiming he saw the Snyder Cut. He went round to see Zack and Deb. He claims they showed him the Snyder Cut. And now people are calling into question his honesty. Some people are claiming that Jason Momoa is not being honest or being economical with the truth when he says he's seen the Snyder Cut. This is my stance. Why would Jason Momoa lie? Why would Jason Momoa, a man in his position, an actor, a celebrity in his position, he's got his first billion-dollar movie under his belt, which is a big achievement for Jason. But I love Jason. He says stuff like, I know I'm not a really good actor. I actually think he's a pretty solid actor. I mean, he's not Sir Laurence Olivier or anything. Let's not get it twisted. But I think he is a really, really good actor. I think he did really well in Game of Thrones with what he was doing, and I think he did a great job with Aquaman. As I say, he's not going to ever be a critically acclaimed actor, but he fucking works as Aquaman. It's as simple as that. But the point being, right, you know, when a man's honesty is called, how can you call Jason Momoa's honesty into question? But listen, these journalists and these sites will do anything for clicks, and the Snyder Cut is where it's at in the film community right now. And I'm not talking about the highbrow film community, of course. I'm talking about in the superhero kind of journalistic and fan community, this is what the subject is. The Snyder Cut, everyone's talking about it. People will view videos about the Snyder Cut. So they don't mind basically trying to call someone very honest, very famous and very successful, more successful than they'll ever be, a liar. Jason Momoa is not a liar. He's not lying. He has seen the Snyder Cut. There will be no reason to risk losing his job at Warner Brothers to kind of embarrass himself. I mean, the thing is here, Jason Momoa, his loyalty to Zack Snyder is unbounded. And he's really brought this heat upon himself out of loyalty. This is why you probably don't see Henry Cavill or Gal Gadot or Ben Affleck saying, hey, constantly saying, hey, I love Zack Snyder. Yeah, I've seen the Snyder Cut. They probably have seen the Snyder Cut. They keep quiet because of their careers. And of course, I think their careers are heading to a different place than Jason. I think Jason realizes that he's onto a good thing with Aquaman. He's going to be getting a few other roles, but, you know, he's not them. They probably take their careers a lot more seriously. He probably takes his career a lot less seriously. It's like the lad who plays Cyborg, very loyal to Zack as well. But to be honest with you, he hasn't got much of a career right now, and he hasn't really got much to lose. But then again, he could have thought, you know, if I start talking like this, people are not going to take me on. But obviously, like Jason, he take his career more seriously than loyalty. And you know, it's an admirable trait for Jason Momoa to publicly on his Instagram, which must have well over a million followers on it, you know, and friends or whatever you call it, to, you know, claim he's seen this mystical movie that a lot of people don't believe is even real. I mean, I've always believed it's real. It's obviously real. Zack Snyder, the man who bloody made the movie, is claimed it's real. Why would he lie? Why would Jason, you know, when we start calling people like Zack, who bloody made the film, and Jason, who starred in the film, liars, then we really do have an agenda. And, you know, when you start calling people's honesty into question, especially when you know they're telling the truth, that makes you the subpar, dishonest human being. And it's interesting when we talk about lies, Mark Hughes is already denying, Mark Hughes' film is already denying that he said the Snyder Cut is 90% complete. Look at that compared to Jason Momoa. No one's calling him onto task. Everyone's just embracing him. Oh, Mark Hughes, yeah, we forgive you. Everyone says stuff. Yeah, well, you said he's 90% finished. I told you he was a liar. I told you he couldn't be trusted. I told you he's an enemy of the DCEU. but you didn't believe me. And I warned you, he's probably not even talking about the Snyder Cut. He's probably talking about the director's cut from Joss Whedon, which I believe is coming on DC Universe or HBO Max, one of the two. We are going to see a Joss Whedon theatrical cut of Justice League, probably before we see the Snyder Cut. Look, you're going to attack me. I know it's a couple of people unfollowed me yesterday. Look, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I'm going to have my opinions. And by the way, I hope you enjoyed my Krypton video yesterday. And how would we go out a Superman movie video yesterday? It's actually called How Do You Make an Awesome Superman Movie? And I have a lot to talk about Superman, my favourite character ever, my favourite superhero ever. So you'll want to check them out. But, you know, I talk how I see. I can't pretend. I can't pretend to you so I get more. That's probably why I've got just over 700 subscribers and not over 7,000 subscribers, because I speak the truth from my own point of view. And I think at the end of the day, that's all any of us can do. And Mark Hughes' film is a liar. And that's all I'm going to say. Don't trust him. Stop following him. Stop screenshotting what the idiot says, because nothing from what he says is going to come true. He has no sources. And you've got to think about this. If this is a respectable journalist, why would he be coming out talking about this with no backup, no evidence? Why? It's like he's telling tales out of school. It embarrasses him. I don't mind someone having the exclusive just before it's released and then Warner Brothers announcing it, which hasn't happened, by the way. But this guy cannot be trusted, because before he started working with Jay, right, he was literally a hater of the DCEU, and you've got to remember that. I actually made a little bit of a mistake yesterday. I said that the article that said it was Captain America Civil War that solved the Martha problem in the MCU. It's actually worse. It's Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame, apparently, according to this article I read, solves the Martha problem. There's no Martha problem to be solved. The Martha moment in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is a really, really powerful moment. Now, if you don't see it as a powerful moment, if you see it as a funny moment and a stupid way to solve a fight, that's your problem. There's not a more powerful reason to stop two guys fighting than their mothers. There's one thing that's going to stop two guys fighting, it's their mums, because all us guys love our mums. So please stop supporting this poxy MCU. Have you flipping well noticed that they're re-releasing Spider-Man Far From Home? It looks like they're going to be doing this with all their films. They are a terrible company. I can't stand Disney, but I do love the DCEU, and I will defend it, and I will defend it against people who call Jason Momoa a liar. I will defend it against people who defend Mark Hughes on film, because at the end of the day, I couldn't trust him as far as I could spit or throw him. So what I would say to you DCEU fans, that we are a very lucky bunch of fans. We started off with two beautiful movies, and they just got better and better. Justice League has its problems, but the elements that they still left in there from Zack Snyder are pretty stunning, and there are some enjoyable moments from that film. Of course, we now have Aquaman. I received Shazam yesterday as well. What a brilliant film that is. Can I just say something to you? Stop saying, and I've said this before, of course, but I'm going to repeat myself because I like doing that. Stop calling Shazam a failure. It is not a failure. Warner Brothers wanted to, you know, lure in, a kind of wrong word, but attract the family, young families, children. Do you know who loves Shazam? Children. You know who loves Shazam? My nieces and nephews. My nephew was on YouTube watching the bonus features of Shazam the other day. Kids love Shazam. And what does that do by attracting these kids? It all of a sudden says, well, all of a sudden, I want to watch the rest of these films. Then you get the next generation into the DCEU. Then you've got a DCEU, a DC World of Films for the next 20 years, right? And it's freaking amazing, and it's great. It's absolutely great. So this film made 4 times its budget, and it attracted the audience it wanted to attract. So I really don't know how anyone could stand there and say that Shazam was a failure. Yes, it made lower than any other DCEU movie, but it also cost a lot less, guess what, than any other DCEU movie. So, you're calling out your own embarrassment. You're basically embarrassing yourselves when you say Shazam was a flop. Shazam wasn't a flop. I know some of you have an agenda. I know some of you think you can destabilize the future of the DC world of movies. Let me give you some friendly advice, because it's not for me, and it's not for Warner Brothers, and it's not for DC. It's for yourselves. Don't waste your time, because what Walter Hamada has done has put this franchise on an even footing. You're not going to ruin it. Birds of Prey, you can't ruin that. Joker movie, you can't ruin that. That's going to be bulletproof. Not even these shield media sites are going to be able to touch the Joker movie. And let's be honest about it, SJWs are going to hate this movie. But guess what? The people who matter, the people who, the highbrow critics I'm talking about, not your Campiers and your Grace Randolphs, they really don't matter when it comes to a film like Joker, because the Joker is playing to a higher class of audience. Yeah, higher class, people who appreciate good films. So if you're like me and you appreciate good movies, if you like Scorsese and things like that, you're going to love the Joker. That's a higher class of movie viewer, because we don't just sit there kind of watching the MCU and thinking that's how films should be made. It's laughable to even call the MCU films real films. Anyway, I've been chattering too much. What do you think about what I've been talking about today? Do you agree with me that Jason Momoa has seen the Snyder Cut and he is telling you the truth? Now, do me a favour. If you're on Twitter or if you're on Instagram and someone calls Jason Momoa a liar, please correct them politely and constructively. Don't get into aggressive arguments. Don't threaten them. Just correct them. Jason Momoa is a man of charity, a man of good faith. The man is a really great guy, a talented guy. I'm proud he's part of the DCEU. I'm proud he's Aquaman, and he's a great Aquaman. He's a great guy, and he has seen the Snyder Cut.